Leg two of Red Star Belgrade and Sheriff from Moldova goes down tomorrow. Um, First leg, 1-1 draw in Belgrade. And just a kind of update on what happened this weekend. Sheriff won 7-1 in their domestic league match. Um, Luvanora, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was back for the team, so he's their striker. He had something like 28 goals last season. Castaneda played as well, who was one of their best players in the first leg in Belgrade. Travore was an unused sub. Neither was Kolovos, who is the Greek international. I thought Kolovos was the best player on the pitch for Sheriff, at least. I thought he pulled all the strings in midfield, connected very well with the strikers, took the ball out of his own half and distributed it very well. I thought he was Sheriff's best player in the first leg. Biziak scored a goal. Yansani, who started the match, scored off the bench as well. I think Yansani actually had two, or Biziak had two. I'm not 100% sure. And then Teal also, who played in midfield, came on as a sub. So like I said, they won 7-1 with kind of a mixed team. Like, it was first team players and some of the reserves. Obviously, they're looking to kind of save some players for the return leg of the Champions League qualifying, third round Champions League qualifying. Ristar had a little bit of a tougher time beating Napredak from Kruševac 1-0 at the Rajko Mitic Stadium, which was a 1-0 win, like I said. Gajic scored. The goal is very late. I think 77th, 78th minute. VAR was used to make sure that he wasn't offside. He wasn't. In terms, and the play just wasn't, Red Star just hasn't been clicking this season, and this is kind of the worrisome factor going into the return leg here. They just haven't looked really good. Apart from that second leg against Kariat, which was Kariat's pretty much second team. They had 2 or 3 players injured, and they had 3 players, in COVID protocol, and the best player, Kante, wasn't even used. He was just on the bench. So it was a good result for Red Star, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of like a mixed bag of first team and second team players. So as we know, in the second leg, we will not see Gaylor Kanga, who picked up 2 yellow cards. The question is, what happens in the midfield? I think that Stankovic is just going to swap Krsticic for Kanga, and Krsticic and Sanogo will be the 2 defensive midfielders. There are rumors that Degenek is going to come back and play as a center back. Usually ahead of match days, I usually don't read too much into what people think the formations are going to be and stuff like that, because it just kind of almost takes away from what I think, and then it's like I get influenced to say, oh, you know what, whatever the sites are writing, they're going to go with that formation. So I think it's still going to be a 4-2-3-1. I wouldn't be shocked if Stankovic does go with 3 at the back with Dragovic, Pankov, and Degenek. It's worked for Red Star in the past, especially in bigger matches last season. So something like a 3-4-2-1. I wouldn't be shocked, but I think it's just going to be your standard 4-2-3-1. It's what he goes with most of the time. 3-4-2-1 is usually, I think, when we play tougher opponents, like I think AC Milan was 3-4-2-1. I don't think he's going to use that, but don't be surprised, because Stankovic has been known to pull some aces out his sleeve and kind of hit us with what we don't really expect to see in the matches. Another interesting question is, does Gajic start or does Marko Gobelic start? We'll also see what happens there. There are some rumors that Diony might not be prepared for this match. I think he picked up a knock in the last match. According to reports, he will be ready. If he isn't, have to point out that Pavko did not travel with the team, so he's out. I think he has a stomach virus or something like that, flu or whatever the case may be. So he didn't go with the team. So you're kind of left with, if Diony isn't ready, you're left with Krstovic or Ben up top. I don't like using Ben up top just because Ben is something like 5'8". Diony isn't much taller at around 6'1", but he will be a little bigger threat than what Ben would be up top. And when you look at this Red Star lineup in the midfield and the center backs, a lot of guys who really they're not to the level of what Milunovic was last season. I already mentioned before that Red Star scored something like 30 goals last season from set pieces. That will not happen this season. Obviously with Milunovic out, We have been close. Dragovic has been close on a few occasions scoring. Would love to see him score his first goal in the return leg. Third round Champions League qualifying would be a huge goal if he did. Hopefully he does score. 13 shots on 13 attempts on target for Red Star in the first match. Only 5 on target. They need to do a better job of creating chances going forward and getting shots on target. Period. And you gotta have to watch the yellow card, red card situation. Again, Kanga picked up 2 yellows, 2 really stupid yellows, in my opinion, in the first leg. Castaneda scored the goal from a free kick, which was very well placed. So we have to avoid any free kicks that are close to the area. Buran is an outstanding keeper, but you don't want to take those chances. And I think surprised a lot of people how offensive Sheriff came out in the first leg. And I wouldn't be surprised to see that again in the return leg, especially when you consider that they're at home for this one. So I wouldn't be surprised if they come out attacking, just because that is just their style of play. Like I rattle off the stats from last season. They had something 112 goals in their domestic league, so they know how to play offensive. And you know, when a team knows how to play offensive, they can be very scary. I mean, when this leg was when we drew Sheriff, I knew it was going to be tough. Again, I rattle off a lot of the titles that they won. I think it's 19 in 30 years, which is way more than half. So they're a very scary team, composed of players who are not Moldovan. A lot of South Americans. You know, there's Greeks. I think there's some Portuguese players. So from all over the world to shape this team, and then they play very well. They're a very sound unit. I was impressed with how organized they are. They gave up a lot of chances, and that's due to Red Star's quality. So Red Star is going to need Katai and Ivanic. Again, it feels like a broken record. I always bring up those two when it comes to creating chances. Falco's going to have to take his chances as well. I thought him and Gobilic did a really good job on the right side in the first match, at least the first portion of the first half. I thought that they played very well, good communication, creating chances. But we'll see if Gobilic is in that spot or if it's going to be Gajic. I think it might be Gobilic actually, just because of he played well in the first match. I wouldn't say he was outstanding, but he played well. And I think to ride that momentum, you kind of throw him in there as well. So Gajic started on the weekend, and I believe Gobilic came on for him in the 80th minute or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what happens there. And again, like I said, in the midfield there, we have to see who's going to partner Sanogo. I personally think it's going to be Krstičić. Veljko Nikolić did play about a half of football in this past weekend, so maybe Stankovic is working him into pairing him up with Sanogo. But I think Krstičić's experience will kind of sway Stankovic to go with him in the midfield. And again, Sanogo, Krstičić, and Kanga all played in the defensive midfield role. 4 yellow cards, so each guy got 1, and then Kanga got his second, which resulted in the suspension. But Red Star has to attack from minute 1, kind of similar what Sheriff did in Belgrade, and score an early goal and then put the pressure on Sheriff to kind of come out and attack, and that's going to leave them exposed at the back if they do attack. But like I said, Red Star did create chances in the first leg, and they have to do that in this leg as well. But they have to make good on the chances that they create. They have to score goals. It's not good enough just creating chances and not scoring. Tierney's been on a little bit of a hot streak, if you want to call it that. He has 2 goals in his last 2 games, I guess, internationally, if you want to talk about Champions League qualifying. So hopefully he keeps it going. Like I said, Dragovic was really close. Would be really cool if he scored his first goal for Red Star in this return leg. But like I said, it's going to be a very tough match. Sheriff is very organized, and I expect it to be a really good match in the second leg.